box office tree, oh box office tree, please bring that green to me. Oh box office tree, oh box office tree, don't give it all to Disney. Oh please, not this year, not another year, another box office Christmas. I'm kind of a Grinch, you know. I mean, I like Halloween and all, and Thanksgiving's pretty cool, but Christmas? Ugh, the music, the presents, the people, the attitudes, the expectations. It's really not worth it. Like, at all. It's just kind of awful, isn't it? I can easily say this is like the worst Christmas I've had ever in 27 years of life. Now, that's not just from cynicism. It's just been a rough Christmas. It's cold. The world sucks. It's just been tough. Academics, please respond. Yes, I must respond, please. No, I'm just having, it's not a terrible, like, my life's not terrible. It's just been a frustrating Christmas. Like, my girlfriend's car broke down tonight, which was annoying, while she was driving to her parents' house. I had to do last-minute Christmas shopping today, which was just... It's always annoying when you have to go on Christmas Eve and the store's crowded and none of the employees want to be there. They're all mad that they're working. So that's something you got to deal with. And then just a lot of... God, there's just been a lot of inconvenient stuff happening lately. I don't know why. Just little things. But so is life. Life is a journey. And like most journeys... there's just as many valleys as there is hills. There's ups and downs, as they say. But you are right, sir. You are right, big fat man. It is the Box Office Addict Christmas special. I know what you're thinking. He's doing this on Christmas Eve? Is he a madman? Everyone else is off doing things with their family and loved ones. What is he doing? Well, people, the show is called Box Office Addict. It's not called Box Office Casual or Box Office Normal, but Addict, because I'm addicted, man. I can't stop. I couldn't spend this Sunday with my loved ones giving gifts and joy and just smiling with each other and eating and laughing and being happy. No, no, no. I came here to talk about the box office because this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what defines me. This is why I stay up late at night crunching the numbers. What will Infinity War do opening weekend? If I can just guess in the right margin, oh, that'll mean so much for me. This ain't for normies. As long as you have weed, it's all good. Oh, the real green on the Christmas tree. Yes, of course. Thank you, Cuddles. Thank you very much. Merry Xmas from Australia. Thank you. Oh my god, I can't believe you guys are on here. This Christmas could have been worse. Hillary could have been president. That's true. I guess there is always the upside to things. There's a silver lining. There's just been a lot going on, man. Can anyone believe the Max Landis thing? What the hell? What the hell? I honestly, if some of you don't know, I did a video when Andy Signore, the accusations came out. And in that video, I very jokingly, it was supposed to be satirical, was playing a stereotypical, like, hardcore male feminist. And I was just accusing everyone else of being evil and doing things to women. And one of the things that I brought up was Max Landis and how he was going to get caught for something, or accused of something at least, and it was going to be his downfall. And I got so much negative feedback on that video. I mean, it was pretty liked video, but it was like 50 likes and 50 dislikes to 90 likes, right? But but it all went down, and everyone kept telling me, you're being so harsh on Max Landis. You're clearly so jealous of him. You're so jealous of a guy who's rich and gets paid to write movies, and his father's really famous and knows Steven Spielberg. You're jealous of that guy. What's wrong with you? And in that video, yeah, I just said all this stuff about Max, and a lot of people came after me saying it was unfair. And you know what? I felt it was true. I thought, well, if the joke didn't come across to you guys, the joke I was making, that was saying we just have to blindly believe all women who accuse men of things, and that includes Max, if that ever happens, which is what he said. And me and Max have had some fun on Twitter. I've had some fun back and forth with Max Landis. But then, of course, I take the video... Well, I don't take the video down, but I make it private. Because I think maybe these jokes are too insensitive to what the climate we're in. Maybe I'm making too light of a pretty dark situation. But then it came out that Max Landis was actually accused of stuff. And it was like, oh, okay. Well, so the video's back up, people. The Andy Signor video. Because, for some reason, I can also see into the future. And if you even go back on my YouTube channel earlier, I have a video about Joss Whedon and his hypocrisy a year ago, where I pretty much predict what was going to happen with Joss Whedon. So, if it's a male feminist, just put the money down. The Skeptic Dumpster Fire has been pretty entertaining. I'm sure it has, Cuddles. Wait, what Max Landis thing? Some chick from YouTube, Anna Akana, accused Max of sexual assault. She said she was friends with his ex, and that he, like, grabs women and says stuff and all that. So, even if he did or didn't, it's just he hasn't been on Twitter in, like, 4 days. And this is a guy who tweets every half hour. I mean, it's frequent, and he will reply to anyone on Twitter. I thought he wasn't getting on Twitter because of the release of Bright, but then I found out what was really going on, and, no, we are here to talk about the Last Jedi box office drop. It's funny. The title of the video is kind of a joke. When I put Last Jedi Soars, I do see the future. I didn't put... Yeah, I thought, you know, I could see thinking Max was gay, but he's just an LA guy. There's a lot of guys in LA like that seem like they're really gay, but they're very hetero. You'll find if you ever go hang out there. Also, this Christmas Eve is dedicated to our friend Dr. Blood Money, who is in the hospital right now. And he's spending Christmas Eve in the hospital, unfortunately. And I feel really bad for him. I don't think he'll be able to make it tonight. But still, he's one of my favorite people. He's a moderator, usually with Bathory. And let's all have a Merry Christmas to him. Let's hope he gets better. You know, we can have him back on here. Very much miss him. But yeah, here's the thing. I called it Last Jedi Soars because last week, everyone said that, like, Last Jedi rises and soars, because it overperformed. It had a better opening weekend than what it was expected to. A lot of people didn't think it would get close to Force Awakens, and it wasn't that bad. Well then, after the word of mouth and just the divide with fans, with this movie over the last, like, you know, just week. You know, I've done 3 different videos on The Last Jedi. My most popular video in a while was The Last Jedi video. Why Rose Doesn't Work. You know anyone who knows how to operate a bookie? You mean a bookie like a guy you... yeah. I was like, you mean a bookie like a guy you make betting with and all that stuff? Yeah, I have a bookie. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe I should go look at Wall Street. But, so, the reason I put Soars is because all week there was deflection with this movie. If there wasn't deflection for the criticism, which there was a lot of, first it was, oh, Rotten Tomatoes audience score isn't real. It's internet trolls voting. It's haters. Then there was accusations that it was the alt-right. Yes, the alt-right went and downvoted Star Wars The Last Jedi. This was all over the place. Collider did at least 3 or 5 separate videos that was just deflection, trying to say that you had to go see The Last Jedi multiple times to like it. And it's like, oh, okay. And then they're all saying that these were fake reviews and all that, and most people love it. Well, then Rotten Tomatoes comes out and says, no, this is just like any other movie here that's rated. If you have a problem with this, then you have to have a problem with all of them. Then the IMDb score is going down. It was at 8.1, 8.0, 7.9. I think it's at a 7.7 right now and going to be at a 7.6 if it's not already there. So compare that to The Force Awakens, which has an 8.1 on IMDb. And just seems across the board to still have a lot of positivity. But, so, there was a lot of deflection. You could just go to, if you went to Screen Junkie's credit, they weren't so bad, but Collider, holy crap. They made so many videos trying to defend this movie. I would recommend so many channels right now that are doing real critical breakdowns, analysis of that movie. There's a couple... Oh my god, I know. 2600, ouch. I don't know what that means. But there's a couple guys that I've been watching lately here on YouTube. I think his name's David Stewart, but he has these really nice breakdowns of why the movie doesn't work and what it gets wrong about the mythology and just what's changing in Hollywood. And there was a few other videos. What I like about the movie is that it has opened up a discussion. A lot of people are talking about stuff now and the franchise in a more honest way that we really needed. But so basically, what happened is it was obvious it was going to have a second week drop. Oh, they're shilly as hell. It's no question. And the thing about it was that the movie was going to drop harder than Force Awakens. Everyone expected that. You know, that was predicted. But everyone kept trying to push that away and say, no, it's not. No, it's not. The word of mouth isn't affecting the movie at all. Nobody cares. Everyone loves this movie. It's just like Last Jedi. Well, we're going to prove today how that's not true. That this movie does not have the hype of Force Awakens. It's not holding as well as Force Awakens, or in fact, as well as many of the other Star Wars films. Yeah, Red Letter Media's review was great. I actually very much agree. There are some movies that get better with multiple viewings, but come on, The Last Jedi is not some RP. That's the thing, I was watching Cache today. The Michael, I always get his name wrong, I think it's Hakkinen or whatever. He did that movie, The White Ribbon, and he's been around a long time, Funny Games, but he made this film Cache about this guy who gets tapes, and it's really creepy. And people have been debating that film for years because it has multiple interpretations about who's sending the tapes, what the ending means, because it has a lot to do with just the culture and France and history and a lot of politics there and just voyeurism, identity, guilt. And people have been debating it for years, and it's a movie that you can watch. You know, I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I rewatched it today. I watched it this morning. I haven't slept in a while, but I was up at 7 this morning watching Cache on Christmas. Hidden is the name of the movie. And it's like, yeah, I still don't know all the answers to this movie, and it's worth discussing. And there's so much craft and artistry put into everything. And sure, it has some of that pretentious European thing. Oh, if you just make a movie where nothing really happens and you leave all the questions open, you don't answer anything, and as long as you have enough subtext about religion or politics, then it's a masterpiece. But still, they act like Last Jedi is a movie. If you go see a second or third time, you're going to see all these amazing things about it you didn't see the first time. And it's like, what movie did you guys see? Is it a kids movie, or is it a serious adult complex movie you have to see multiple times? Because they seem to be arguing that it's both. And I didn't take it as that complex of a film. It's an overstuffed film. There's a lot of stuff in it, and it's too long and has too much in it, but it's not like a hard film to comprehend and follow or get what's going on. The Last Jedi, An Unabridged Rage, is a great analysis that goes from... I do like that. I do like that video. Yeah, that's the thing. I've been seeing a lot of good videos about this, about the structure of the movie. That was really good. But the whole thing was, oh, it's not going to drop, it's not going to drop. Well, guess what? It dropped. It dropped hard, too. It had a 68% drop. That's 70% drop. Let's just say 70%. And here's how you know something's dropping. Okay? Because that's a really, really, really big drop for this movie. That's bigger than you think it is. For Star Wars, for this time of the year, for it being apparently a film that everyone loves, that there's no split opinion on this movie. Everyone loves it. It's got an A Cinema score. Collider says the A Cinema score means more than the Rotten Tomatoes audience score. Like their review means more than a hobo that I give $5 and ask him what he thinks about the name of the thing on the marquee, and he goes, I think a good movie. And I'm like, all right, here's your $5, go buy some booze. That's as valid and as informative as a Collider opinion, if not more so. If not more so. But it did drop. And it dropped big time. Okay, so when I put Last Jedi Soars, it was really a joke because I'm mocking this whole idea that this movie is not at all have people negative about it, that there's no negative attention about it. Red Letter Media was negative. Jeremy Johns was negative. Angry Joe was negative. Mundane Matt. People that are the kind of critics on YouTube that kiss everything's butt. They love everything Marvel, everything pretty much. There hasn't been a major push of love for this movie outside of those shill channels and mainstream critics who this is the first time a movie's ever made a literally for me, from my own personal perspective, the first time an argument's ever actually been made that critics are just full of crap and they aren't really being professional in their bias, because it's the first time you're like, why are none of the critics talking about some of these problems that everyone else has a problem with? And then when these problems are brought up, there's deflection that everyone who has a problem is a hater, they don't get it, they're not accepting to do things, they misunderstand the subversion and meta aspects of the movie, they misunderstood the deconstruction. Like, we're a bunch of morons. They're all smart and we're morons. That we didn't get this nihilistic film, this brilliant nihilistic vision from Rian Johnson where there is no good and there is no evil. There just is. And that's all. There is no mystery or anything. There's just nothing. There is no fight or great journey. There's nothing. It's hopeless. Oh, there's nothing. See how edgy I am? Oh my god, I'm a genius. I'm a genius. I've reinvented Star Wars by taking all of the personality out of it. Who could have thunk it? Oh my goodness. Jesus Christ. Okay. But it did drop. So it does show the word of mouth is affected. It does show that it is not as loved as The Force Awakens, which it doesn't have to be. Let's also clarify contextually. This movie still made a crap load of money. It still made $365 million in 2 weeks. Domestically. And consider this. Consider this. Disney is keeping 65% of the ticket sales. They had that deal. They keep 65%. So this $365 million, they're keeping 65% of it. They're keeping a big chunk of the ticket sales. So not only is this movie making a lot of money still, Disney's keeping most of that money. So, you know, they're probably going to keep less as the weeks go on. But as of right now, Disney's making a lot of money. That's what it is. Lessons for filmmakers. Just because you subvert something doesn't make it automatically good. When all you have is subversion, like I said, it's a 2.5-hour movie of fake outs. Because he's so concerned with faking out, it makes a movie that's supposed to be unpredictable, predictable in its unpredictability. The fact that he goes out of his way to make everything not what you think, you can predict that and know where the movie's going throughout the rest of the movie. It's an odd thing. I've never really seen a movie like it. Where it's trying so hard to go against your expectations, and in doing so, it becomes more boring and bland, and couldn't even meet, like, your lowest expectations because it does nothing. It's sterile. Oh my god, Blood Money's here, man! Shit, dude, we talked about you a little bit earlier. I was acting like you were dying and stuff. I was all like, let's do a tribute to my dead friend. This is for my homie. For a second, I thought you were talking about the European Union and was baffled on anyone could be a fan of... Yes, that's what I was talking about. Hey, Blood Money, since you're here, I have a question to ask you. Who do you think sent the tapes and cachet? Do you think it was the one guy's son with the other son? Because my new theory, I rewatched it this morning, and I want to talk to you about that movie because I actually think it's very overrated now that I rewatched it. Because I don't think it actually means anything. But I wanted to, I do like Ben Shapiro's review, but I want to know who you think sent the tapes, because I'm thinking now it might have been Pierre, the guy that the wife was, that was her boss. But that might be a video for another day. But anyway, yeah, this did drop. The word of mouth isn't there. And this is one of the biggest drops. This is way bigger than expected. This is like a DC drop. And you can't say, oh, well, it's because Jumanji and Pitch Perfect 3 opened. It's like, really? Yeah, Jumanji. And by the way, to everyone who was saying Jumanji was going to bomb, which I don't know why any of you were saying that, it has a $34 million opening weekend, and it's made $50 million in its first few days, so it's not a bomb. Pitch Perfect 3 is a little disappointing. $20 million for this franchise, which was like, what was the second film? I think the second film opened, $69 million. So we went from a film with a $69 million opening to a $20 million opening. That's pretty crazy. Thank you for the tribute. The family of the chicken sent the tapes. You mean it was the chicken? The chickens wanted revenge the whole time? Oh my god. Dude, I want to talk to you about that movie because I don't know if it's brilliant or if it's just a fraud piece. because really the subtext of it's so obvious about what he's saying, about the French guilt and all that, and it's so obvious what all that stuff means. Like, it's not, there's no depth to that, and it's so obvious what seems like interpretation about memory and all that stuff, and guilt and childhood and all that. And even the theory that he's the one that leaves the tapes, like, all of it just feels so pretentious. I don't know if it's actually a good movie, because he wants it to be about that, but it's really, people watch it more for the mystery and the whodunit, and they study the last shot and the opening shot than they do the themes. I don't know. It's like I said, it's like if you make a foreign film today, and if you make it really dry, and as long as you have subtext and that's all you have, you don't have to answer anything or tell a traditional story or even tell a story, and it's a masterpiece. Because any answer is correct, and every answer is wrong. So that makes it genius. Like, that's kind of my problem with Caché. I'm watching it, I'm like, when I saw it years ago, I really liked it, but I feel like what Takashi Miike did with Audition was he gave it real, a conclusion with all the themes, and it built towards something. And Caché almost like, it's like a cheat. It's like he tries to have it both ways, I feel. It's like, okay, is this an art film that's a drama? Or are you making a thriller that's like a mystery that I have to try and solve, but he makes it unsolvable? You talking about Caché? Good God, that movie infuriated me. I do think it's pretentious. Yes, I am. Yeah. I used to love that movie. When I was a teenager, it's called Hidden. The name of the movie's Hidden, but the title is Caché. But I didn't... God, I loved it when I was a teenager. But now that I rewatched it, I'm starting to think, is this really overrated, or am I just missing something? Because I thought it was very obvious rewatching it, and there was nothing, except the mystery that made it. Like, if he didn't have the hook of the camera and the tapes and stuff, the movie wouldn't have anything really to draw you in. Like, that's the hook. So when he doesn't commit to that, it kind of ticks me off. And I know it's like, oh, but anyone could be... Maybe he sent the tapes, or maybe it's just guilt manifested or something like that. But now rewatching it, yeah, I'm like, this is just overrated. This isn't as good as Funny Games. And I love that it's Christmas Eve and we're talking about a French movie made by a German guy. I don't know if it was I mean, yeah, it was French actors. Isn't that weird? Like, hey, forget about Star Wars. We're talking about Caché. This movie from years ago. Don't understand why Rey is so OP when they only had to train for a quarter. Man, she didn't even, like, train. She just moves some rocks, and then she's, like, the best Jedi ever, after beating Kylo in the previous movie. Which, once again, what is with the power levels in these movies? How strong is Kylo? Like, Kylo gets beat by Rey in the first one, and then in this one they act like he's strong as her. He's as strong as her, if not stronger. And then it's like, well, she beat him up in the last movie. Why would she listen to him? Did he get better? Have you seen Red Letter Media's Nerd Crew? Yes, of course. Of course. I love Nerd Crew. Michael Hacken doesn't have an actual answered. I like it as a teenage dude. That's the thing, right? Oh, dude, I disagree. I love the Three Colors trilogy. Yeah. I mean, it's cool that you feel that way. And I definitely think blue is probably the most overrated out of those ones. White's actually a little underrated, but red's a masterpiece. Three Colors Red is, like, arguably the best movie of the 90s, in my opinion. It's definitely top 3, but I don't know, Blood Money, are you conflicted? Like, Blood Money's kind of my co-host. He's my Paul Schaefer with Bathory. But I don't know, I'm kind of conflicted, though, because I do think there's a lot of artistic merit in Caché, too, though. I think there's almost something to be said about what it does about voyeurism and, like, being spied on, and even how the government's spying on us now, and listening on our conversations and watching it. It's almost like it was kind of Black Mirror-esque before Black Mirror came out. And I think that kind of... I think that part of the movie's still interesting. That still feels very relevant being watched. It broke new ground! Yeah, it's the best one since Empire until the next one comes out. Thanos in the house! While the fight with the Red Predator guards was cool. Oh, Praetorian guards, yeah. You know what would have been cooler? I'm going to rewrite the movie again. You know I rewrote the movie, the Rose character? Let me do another rewrite. Here's my pitch to fix The Last Jedi Part 2. Okay, we see the Knights of the Ren in The Force Awakens that are not acknowledged at all in this next film. To where, like, what the heck happened to them? And Luke even says that, that Kylo went off with 6 or so of his students, right? And left. So, Here's my pitch. The Praetorian Guard, is that their name? The Praetorian Guards are the Knights of the Ren. And Snoke made him his Knights of the Ren. And they are Kylo's friends and brothers. So at the end of the movie, when Kylo... I know he didn't do the Three Colors trilogy. What are you talking about, dude? We all know he didn't. Did someone say that he did the Three Colors trilogy? I thought somebody was just talking about the Three Colors trilogy. Oh, did Bathory think he did it? No, what's... I'm going to get his name right. Isn't it Krzysztof Kieslowski? But yes, if the students had been the Praetorian Guards, and before Snoke died, don't kill Snoke, because why are they even fighting them after Snoke dies? Their boss is dead. It should be that Snoke sends them to fight Kylo, and Kylo has to overcome his own bias and fight his friends with Rey, which shows his bond is stronger with Rey than with his Knights of the Ren. It would also explain to us where they've been and why those Praetorian Guards were so awesome. And then he would have had to kill them in front of Snoke while Snoke's just laughing at the whole display of it, which would have been a lot cooler of a sequence. And it would have made it not just like, hey, these guards are awesome and they're fighting. It would have been, oh, this is emotional because Kylo doesn't want to kill them and he has to now. And that's why they're so awesome and they can fight. And then you would have more force power being used. No, maybe it was my misunderstanding. I'm sorry. Or maybe I misread the chat. Yeah, I didn't see that anyone said that he directed. But, right, wouldn't that be a cooler movie? Instead of it just being this cool action scene, wouldn't it be cool if it, like, you were like, oh, man, wow, this is like if Kylo had to, like, stab his friends and watch his friends die, you know? And then that, you know, God, there's just so many ideas that would have been more interesting. Like, why not make the Knights of the Ren the Praetorian Guards? Why not do that? Why not mix two things into one cool idea? Now the Knights of the Ren thing, it's like, what's going on with that? Where the hell are they? Where did Snoke come from? How did the First Order happen? How many Death Stars do you have to blow up to win a war? They've blown up 3 Death Stars. 3! And they still can't win. Jesus Christ. Oh, no, they're not going to acknowledge any of the things in this movie. I feel like JJ's going to come in and just be like, Episode 8 did not happen. That movie is not real. See how long we've been going? Oh, we've only been 28 minutes. All right. So let's finally get to The Last Jedi. We'll talk about the other movies later because I really want to focus on Last Jedi. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it has a bunch of cool ideas. Rian Johnson is good at ideas, and I feel that way about all of his films. Looper has good ideas. The first half hour of Looper is really good. And the whole movie has good ideas. All of his movies have really good ideas. It's just Brick's the only one that executes that idea, the conceit. Probably because it's so simple and low budget. But Last Jedi is filled with interesting ideas, but he doesn't commit to anything. He just keeps trying to go against anything you think would happen. But God, Blood Money, you got to get out of the hospital, man. We got to have this conversation about Caché and Schindler's List and all that. Good Christmas movies for everyone to watch with the family. You know, in particular, those two. I don't know if they'll keep up with the new Rian Johnson trilogy. I think that might go downhill. But they haven't blown up the super mega ultra Death Star that hasn't been established yet. That's going to be the finale, you know. That's a good point. I didn't consider that. It never came to my mind that there'd be a super mega ultra Death Star. Yeah, I don't know. The First Order... Apparently the Resistance and the Rebels are just so incompetent. They can't do anything after winning major battles. Like, you got to think about this, right? Leia's been in this for how long now? Like, let's say she was in her 20s, right? And what? Is she, like, in her 60s now? So let's say 40-something years. I wasn't quite sure how old Carrie Fisher was, but let's say it was like 40-something years. So Leia, when she was young with the Rebels, went out and blew up the Death Star. Then they ran off to Hoth. They got a Jedi, got him trained, and then in the next film she gets taken by Jabba. They kill Jabba the Hutt, who is very powerful within the galaxy, by the way, very, very powerful Jabba. They kill him. Then they go blow up a second Death Star, kill the Emperor, and then they kill Darth Vader basically, and they wipe out a huge amount of the rest of the Imperial Army. So at the end of Return of the Jedi, we see the entire galaxy celebrating this victory. We see everyone like, we set free, everyone's all happy, right? Luke sees the Force Ghost and everything's beautiful. So that's the end of Return of the Jedi. That's the last image we got of Star Wars. Of that series. So now we're in a movie series that's 30 years later, and Leia's still doing this, because when the movie starts, she's a General Organa, and she's fighting battles. She hasn't seen Han in years. By next week's show, I should be out of the hospital. I'm happy to hear that, man. So then in The Force Awakens, Leia, who's old now, sets up a mission that blows up a new Death Star that the First Order has, which is a whole planet, and they blow up like 5 planets. And nobody in the galaxy cares that the First Order did this. So then the Resistance, which should just be, I'm assuming the Republic, because wouldn't Leia and everyone be a Republic? Why would they be the Resistance? Why are they the Resistance? So they resist. I don't know what they're resisting. Like, aren't they the good guys? Like, don't they run the galaxy? And now it's like Snoke's the leader of the galaxy and nobody really cares, and there was no need to explain any of it. And so yeah, our characters have been in war for all this time, and even though they've blown up several Death Stars, so we have to go back to even Rogue One. People stole the Death Star plans and died, and it was meaningless. Rogue One is a meaningless movie now. Like, all of those movies, because of Rogue One now it's meaningless, all of it, to go like, well, it doesn't matter because in 30-odd years everything's going to be terrible and the First Order's just going to come back and kill everyone and run the galaxy and blow everything up and they're going to destroy planets. So you guys might as well just die right now. There's really no reason to fight. I mean, they're no better off now than if the Emperor had stayed in charge. In fact, things are worse now than they probably were before the Emperor took over. I mean, but the Emperor, like, while he was in, there seemed to at least be a balance in the galaxy. How much cocaine do you think it took Leia to get through the decades? Not enough. Well, enough to help you fly through space. I don't know if that was the Coke or Carrie Fisher. Yeah, what happened to the whole, like, government? What happened to the galaxy? Why does nobody in the galaxy care about the First Order and what they do? Like, I don't get this. Why are they just allowed to go around and kill everyone and nobody does anything? Like, everyone just accepts it and goes, okay. Oh, I gotcha. Well, it doesn't matter if they fix the Death Star. Every time they blow it up, it doesn't matter. They keep winning. They've blown up 3 of them, and the First Order's winning at the end of this movie. Like, I don't know what's going on. Leia must be... Honestly, thinking back on it, if the whole movie Last Jedi is about strong female characters and weak male characters, right, who fail, really when you look at it, the women are terrible leaders in The Last Jedi. Laura Dern's character, Admiral Hodor, or Hold the Door, she doesn't tell anyone her plan. Her plan actually fails originally until she weaponizes lightspeed. And Leia has been failing now for years. I mean, is there a bigger failure than Leia? Like, Luke left the battle. Leia, who has super strong force powers, has been failing for decades now. Rey fails to accomplish anything. She's not the one who kills Snoke. And then Rose is crazy and crashes into Finn, which pretty much dooms the rest of the Resistance. So, the movie that Rian Johnson made that is supposed to represent strong women, all it did was, because he didn't commit to anything and because he wrote such a contrived, poorly rendered screenplay, all the females come off really idiotic and like they don't know what they're doing, like they shouldn't actually be in charge. Like when she gives Poe, when she makes Poe the leader at the end, it's like, good job, Leia, finally, you put a man in charge because you've been doing a terrible job. You lost your entire army. I mean, think about it. Leia blew it. Leia's a terrible general. I mean, if we're just going on... I mean, she's lost more than she's won at this point. And Laura Dern's character pretty much failed. Like, she had to, like... Really, by not telling anyone her plan, she just made everyone panic and freak out, which caused the mutiny to happen, which would have been avoided otherwise. Rose's character accomplishes nothing except to stop Finn from saving everyone. Like somebody said brilliantly today, Rose is the reason Luke Skywalker had to die. That's hilarious and how true it is. Because of Rose, Luke Skywalker had to die. Otherwise, that wouldn't have need to happen. You don't get it, Mr. Patriarchy. The women are just playing 4D chess. 2D chess. Yeah, and you really, when you think about it, he did such a bad job of writing a good movie and with a good story that the female characters come off like they're unprofessional, like they don't know what they're doing, which is really betrays what was so good about Leia in the original trilogy. Or even Padme being competent at what you do. The women in this movie seem very poor at decision making. So maybe he was just going for realism. Okay, let's go back to the box office drop, because the show is about the box office, or at least I claim it is. Oh, whoop! Red Letter Media Jurassic Park commentary. What am I doing there? Also reading some Nightwing comics from the 90s. Highly recommend them. Okay, so let's go back for context. Let's take a journey back to The Force Awakens. So, Force Awakens, opening weekend, $247 million. Opened at 4,134 theaters with a $245 million budget. So, the second weekend was one of the best holds ever. The second weekend for this movie, which was Christmas weekend to its credit, this movie, The Last Jedi, is not getting that Christmas boost because it's not playing over a weekend. Because, like, Christmas Eve's on a Sunday today. But, okay, Last Jedi's day-to-day grosses were better. It didn't have as steep of drops as The Last Jedi. The Last Drop had the biggest drops, I think, for any Star Wars movie during the weekday. And, but let's look at Last Jedi here. I mean, Force Awakens. Force Awakens second weekend. $149 million. 39% drop. That's amazing. The movie was at $540 million at that point. A 39% drop off a $247 million opening weekend. I mean, that's as front-loaded as an opening weekend as you could have, is that, and the fact that it held so well. Third weekend for Force Awakens. Third, $90 million. 39%. Then in the fourth weekend, it had a 53% drop. Then we go back. 37%. 22%, 46, 21, 37, 11, 9, 36, 23, 37, 30, 25, 50. All great. Those are all great. So this show's word of mouth was very strong for Force Awakens. That it was a crowd pleaser, like I said. That audiences really responded to it at the time. As an entertaining spectacle, as a movie of pure escapism, at the time, it really hit with audiences. It did really well. So, The Force Awakens made $1 billion in profit just off the box office, and the merchandising was huge. Even though they just have really just a garbage heap of toys now. I was in a Five Below like a few days ago shopping, and I saw Jyn Russo and Cassian, or whatever his name was, toys from Rogue One, and I was just laughing. Like, yeah, nobody's buying these. But, okay, so look at that. That's a great hold, right? 39%? I mean, holy crap. Accept the money as a refund for your Last Jedi ticket. Buy something more useful with it, like toilet paper. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that a lot. That makes this Christmas a lot better. Anyone else think Rose looks like... Oh, dude, that's been like a meme that she's Shrek. That's already become a meme like the first day. Let me see. Leia is the best female character. Yes, she is. She's still the best female character today. It's amazing. Thank you very much for that donation, my friend. I appreciate it very much. Merry Christmas. But, yeah, $247 million to that. That was great. This confirms now what a lot of us thought, that the Last Jedi... We didn't think it was going to open as well as it did, so that's what threw a lot of people off. Here's what I think happened to be more fair to this movie. Because everyone's going to take this big weekend drop, which is big, and try to spin it as it's just bad word of mouth. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of context here. There is context. The movie never had as much hype as Force Awakens. So when Force Awakens had its opening weekend, it really kept going, the momentum. Last Jedi overperformed, and I think that had a lot to do with the controversy going into the weekend. And it was expected to make around 200, if not less, and then the fact it did 220, it did really good. So I think this weekend's more of a reflection of how well it did last weekend instead of how bad it did this weekend. See, because it did so well last weekend, the drop's going to seem steeper than it should. Whereas if the film had opened at like 190 something to 200, this drop wouldn't look as bad. But it looks worse because it did very well last week, and it did much better than anyone was expecting. At least that's my opinion on it for some of it, but there's also more to look at. Because a movie's dropping and people are trying to take away from that when you're looking at the updates. If you go look at Deadline on Thursday night or Friday early, they were saying the film was going to do 120 million over the holiday weekend. Then they said it was going to do 118, and then it was 112, and now it's at 102. Now they're counting this and then Christmas. So they're saying over this and then tomorrow Christmas, this movie's going to do 102 million. Originally it was 120, and the weekend was supposed to be like 85 million. And as you kept checking the updates on Deadline until Saturday, early into Saturday, you found that then they adjusted it down to this opening weekend, which was 71 million, and even after that, it had to go lower again to 68 million. So it went from 85 to 71 to 68, from 120 to 118, 112 to 102. So the movie's going down, even with the expectations. You have to keep going down. That is a telling sign that it's not doing better, like it's not getting that boost from Saturday like a movie typically would. Or it's not doing great on Sundays as of right now. So we'll have to see how it all pans out when the actuals come in, because it's going to be tough with it being the weekend of the Christmas Eve and all that, and there's a lot of people. But okay, now let's look at Rogue One. Since we looked at Force Awakens, and we looked at how that movie had some of the best holds in modern movie history. And had some of the best weekends ever. I mean, its third weekend was almost 100 million. Here we are with Last Jedi, in its second weekend, already under 100 million. Already. In weekend 2, the numbers are lower than that. Now, you could say that it's an apples and oranges comparison, but it's really not. Just speaking off the performance of a Star Wars movie and its opening weekend, the movie, if it has such great word of mouth, as everyone's claiming, and people are loving it, like Collider and Deadline are saying, and it's the alt-right that are doing the bad reviews, well, then why isn't it like a 55% drop, which is more normal for a big movie? Why is it such a steep drop like a DC movie? It's front-loaded, and that's not exactly what you want. You don't want your movie to just be front-loaded. You want to see that people are enjoying it. Rogue One, weekend 2. Pretty much the same as this, 23rd to the 25th. $64 million, 58% drop. So it had a smaller drop. 96 million from the whole holiday. So it pretty much did the same as The Last Jedi. Rogue One, in its second weekend, with a $155 million opening, had about the same second weekend as The Last Jedi. And then the next weekend was a 22% drop, which was very small. Now, the question is that going to keep up with The Last Jedi, or are we going to keep seeing, 50%, 60% plus drops? That's a good question. I don't know. I think it'll eventually balance out, obviously. And once again, this movie's still making a lot of money. A lot. It's still made a crap load of money, and they're still, it's already made $765 million worldwide. Even if it's a $250 million movie, which I'm sure it is, they're going to make profit. The question is, though, is this going to affect the next movie? Let me bring up a movie for everyone called Justice League. Now, when Man of Steel came out, had a pretty good opening weekend. Then it had pretty bad word of mouth, dropped really bad. So then they brought Batman in. Once again, great opening weekend, 166 million. Then the word of mouth wasn't very good. Second weekend, 69% drop, right? So then you come out with the next film in this series. That I'm not saying Wonder Woman. I'm saying part of the Zack Snyder series, the franchise. And then you get Justice League, which opens to $93 million. And it cost more, has more actors and superheroes in it, has more of a marketing campaign behind it, and it hasn't even made $650 million worldwide with $450 million put into it. Now the question is, will Star Wars Episode 9 or the Han Solo movie, all of this stuff, get affected by the poor reception? Not even poor, but the mixed reception to Last Jedi. Because it's not an immediate effect. This is what I said in my review and last week, that I don't think this will be an immediate issue. This movie's still going to make Disney a lot of money. But I do think the decisions they made here in Rian Johnson are going to affect the future of the franchise, where it's not going to be making this kind of money. They were still able to bring in all the Star Wars fans on opening weekend, but the question is, can they keep the fans? Who will restore balance to the box office? Please. Oh, no, The Last Jedi isn't going to flop, no. But it is, yeah, it's the Batman v Superman of Star Wars. That's totally true. But yeah, it's made $745 million worldwide. I don't know what the budget is. I'm just going to guess $250 million because the budget to Force Awakens was around there. But yeah, $380 million foreign. It's definitely going to make $1 billion. But I think we can say a couple things for sure now, which I already thought were certainties, but other people debated that. This is not going to gross as much as The Force Awakens domestically or worldwide. This is not going to make $936 million domestically, and it most certainly, I think, is going to have a hard time to make $1.1 billion foreign box. I think it can, but I think its final total is probably going to be $1.5 billion at, you know, more Jurassic World, less Force Awakens. But we look there, right there, Rogue One had a much better second weekend. And so did Force Awakens. So the last two films held better. I mean, this is a 70% drop. And it, you know, and sure, they have Christmas. But once the holidays are over, and we go into January and February, how well is this movie going to hold? Because that's a big drop with the holidays. That's a drop during a time when drops are really small. This time of the year, and it still dropped. Yeah, look at this. Phantom Menace, back in '99, second weekend drop, 20%. Then 36, 22%. So not very big. Actually, kind of an amazing hold. Holy crap. Phantom Menace, everyone went to go see the movie. Attack of the Clones, I think this one had a pretty big drop. 40%. So currently The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, is the biggest second week drop for a Star Wars movie that I could find. Let me check Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith, 49%, which is a pretty big drop, is still not as bad. So, in modern Star Wars, The Last Jedi is the first film to have a 60% drop plus in its second weekend. I don't think it'll get to $1.5 billion. The drop was too steep in the second weekend. I mean, I can see that. Here's my only thinking with that, right? It's already at $365 million, right? So let's do the math. It's guaranteed to make $500 million at this point, even if it continues to drop. So it only needs to make $850 to $1 billion worldwide and like 500 something to 600 to really do that $1.5 billion. So I think 1.3 to 1.5 billion is pretty much locked just because the domestic total is already so high. Because it's still making a lot of money. It's a big drop for a Star Wars movie and for how big the opening weekend was, but this is still huge. Like, you know, a $68 million second weekend is still huge. It's still big money. And it's not done. It's definitely still got a long run. So I think it's going to get there. But we will see. Yes, it did. But I could see your point of view. I could definitely see your point of view on that. But yeah, so that's the news with this weekend. The Last Jedi did not soar. That is not the news. It actually did not soar. It sank. It went down. Just instead of Leia flying, it went down, you know. It's like Rey jumping into the water. So this shows, finally, for all the people at Collider or Deadline or Variety. Well, actually, Variety wrote, or was it Entertainment Weekly? Somebody wrote a great piece on The Last Jedi and broke down Rian Johnson just getting too much hipster cred for Brick. But Oliver Harper did a very good review too. But it's all about. It was all that nobody. There was no mixed reception on this movie. It was all no. Everyone loves it. Everyone loves it. It's great. It's got an A Cinema score. It's loved. Look at the 93% Rotten Tomatoes. Well, now we've seen the audience ratings. We've seen a lot of reviews out there that are negative. And now it's showing in the box office. This is a bigger drop than would have happened if it had better word of mouth. And that's just what it is. And the argument we have is the other Star Wars movies. Every other Star Wars movies that I just looked at. That's Rogue One, Force Awakens, the prequels. And you could not say the prequels don't count. Fine. Then the last two movies, Rogue One held better. Rogue frickin' One. Okay? And you can't say it's because it had a bigger opening weekend, because Force Awakens had an even bigger opening weekend. Okay? Avengers had a better second weekend than this. The Avengers did. I even think Jurassic World had a better second weekend. Let's go look at Jurassic World. Let's check that one out. Just to, get my point across here. Because I'm getting sick of this deflection where it's like, there's no negative word of mouth. And it's not me saying the movie's terrible just because I dislike it and then I'm right. I'm just saying that clearly the word of mouth is not there like it was before. There is some negative getting out there. And it's affecting the box office now. Okay, if that was a DC movie and it had a 68% drop, all the articles on all the box office sites would all be saying that's a horrible drop, and what does this mean? And when it's Star Wars, everyone acts like it's normal. I mean, that's all I keep saying. Yeah, no, they hate it because it takes risks. It doesn't take any risks. That's what I don't get when they say that. The movie has no cojones. Like, everything that Rian Johnson sets up, he doesn't follow through with. It doesn't take a single risk. That's what baffles me when they say that. It just goes against expectations. It doesn't do anything different. Nope. Jurassic World had 6 million second weekend, 49%. So Jurassic World held better with a 208. And Jurassic World, by that point, made 402 million. So this film is behind all of the other $200 million big openings. It's behind the Star Wars films. Now, once again, this is still a lot of money. This is still a lot of money, and they're still killing it. But that's the thing, people. Like, I'm so sick of it's just to confirm it. There is a negative word of mouth out there. It mixed at best. Okay, the A Cinema score means nothing. I hate when that chick on Collider, that really annoying girl on Collider, that's just so, oh my god. I hate the fake geek girls they get on that crap. Oh my god. But she's just always on there like, I have to go with the statistical fact that the cinema score polls people when they come out of the theater. And they get and that's more honest than Rotten Tomatoes where it's anonymous. Okay, when people come out of a movie with cinema score, they just ask you randomly. Like, it's like getting a question for Family Feud. Did you like the movie? Yeah. Or, I don't know. Not many people sit there and just say what they actually feel. Like, if I got asked when I came out of a movie, I'd probably go, I don't know, it was okay. And they would say I liked it. Okay? Or like it would be a B something. Okay? But later, if I got to think about it, I would go, you know what, that movie's like, yeah, I'd give it like a C-. But cinema score just gets you right when you're coming out, when people are really hyped and they're coming out of the theater with a crowd or something. So it's biased too. So let's forget all the arbitrary rating systems. Let's look at the money. That's where it matters. That's where Disney cares. And that's your best argument. Well, hey, it made a lot of money. Look at that opening weekend. Look how well Force Awakens did. It's just a vocal minority. It's just a vocal minority. Well, if it's a vocal minority, why did it have a 68% drop? Where's that minority? That seems like a lot of people didn't go back to this. Yeah, initial reaction doesn't mean a damn thing. That's the thing. Cinema Score's Daddy's Home 2 has an A- cinema score. So Collider tries to use that, and it's just getting so annoying. And finally, everyone's willing to call out the critics, the shills. Everyone's willing to call out Disney and just the pass they get for stuff like this. That if a DC movie had this many mistakes, I don't think it would get a pass. Although Wonder Woman had a lot of mistakes. It shows the political bias of film critics right now, how they give movies a pass based off a lot of their biases with politics. It's annoying. It's like the fans and the critics have reversed. And it's also it's not annoying that critics like this movie. It's annoying that when people started saying they didn't like it, it all became that you didn't understand it, or it was trolls or haters, or it didn't do what you want. They kept trying to tell you why you didn't like it was wrong. Instead of just accepting that it's a mixed bag of a movie, which I think is obvious to anyone who's paying attention, that it's a movie with both good and bad qualities, and you have to fall somewhere on the line with that. But everyone wants to debate now either it's a great movie or it's a terrible movie. It can't just be a 6 out of 10 movie that doesn't really work. It either has to be, it's the best one since Empire, or it's the worst one ever made. It's not just like, hey, maybe it's just kind of an okay movie, or a crappy movie, but it's not terrible. I didn't like Force Awakens that much either, but I liked it more initially than I liked The Last Jedi. I agree, a lot of people that liked Force Awakens, I don't think it carried over. I think they made huge mistakes here. I still wonder how a movie's success is proof of its quality. When these people defend Transformers, I don't think they would. They wouldn't say that, like, hey, Transformers made $1.1 billion, so it's a great movie. With that argument, Avatar is the best film ever. I want box office numbers. I like when you talk like a producer. Or when I talk like the money, that I like profits. Well, I am talking about the box office. Yeah, Your Movie Sucks gave a very balanced review where he gave it a 6. And he said everyone overhypes the entire Star Wars universe and acts like it has more depth and stuff like that. And it's true. People get way too invested in Star Wars when its story's been done since the 80s. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let me get back to the box office. I have been ignoring it for like an hour. My bad. Okay. So, Last Jedi, don't know the budget. Marketing has to be high, over 100 million, but 745 million worldwide after 2 weeks. That's pretty good. It's still making a lot of money, and it's still on pace to become the highest-grossing film of the year and pass Beauty and the Beast. Domestically, it's on pace for that as well. You know, it's not up there with Force Awakens, and it might not even make much more than Rogue One. But that's still bigger than most movies. It'll still be one of the highest-grossing films of all time. It still puts Disney over the top, because Disney's still a company with multiple things. They still have other films that made a lot of money this year, so this is just, you know, money in the bank after they've already made a lot of money. But the Star Wars franchise is still strong and alive as of right now. We will not see the full ramifications of this until the next movie. In particular, Han Solo, the Solo movie, we're going to have to see how that one... I'm very worried about that one financially. Alright, let's move down the list. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, which I actually think has a better premise than the original movie. It was hitting me today about Jumanji. Jumanji 1 has a crazy existential thing about it that I never thought about. Okay, Jumanji's about a kid. Jumanji's about a kid, right? Who goes into a game for like 30 years and then comes back out as a 40-year-old man. And then the game comes into the real world. And at the end of the movie of Jumanji, which spoilers, him and the girl go back in time. They go back in time to start over again so he can save his parents and all that. But he has the memories of before. So at the end of the movie when he's like in his 40s again, he's really got the mind of an 80-something-year-old. Also, he went crazy while he was in Jumanji. So, so here's the weird thing about it. So that's a weird thing to think about. So this kid comes back and has the mind of an adult male. And then he lives the rest of his life with that. And is well beyond his years. And it's not even addressed. It's like, what the hell? See, I like the premise of this better. And originally Jumanji was a picture book. That the kids go into the game. This time it's a video game. The original film was a board game. But this time they go into the game and become an adult. And then you have to play the game. Which makes you think, would the original Jumanji have a better premise if it was about the kid Alan going into the game and then he becomes Robin Williams in the game Jumanji and he has to play the game and get out of it and then come back to his family, which would have been a great adventure movie with escapism. Now, it would have been a little bit like Hook with Peter Pan and Robin Williams, but this is a better premise because then you have the adults acting like kids, and it makes sense because, like Jack Black in this plays a teenage girl, because they're inhabiting the bodies of these adults. The original Jumanji is an adult male who grew up from a little boy into an adult, and then he goes back to being a kid after already being an adult. It's this crazy thing with time travel. It's not like Back to the Future, because Marty was only gone for like a week. In Jumanji, he's gone for like 30 years. So that dude, clearly, his life's going to be screwed up forever after that. He already accepted his parents' death. His parents' death was already something he had to deal with. And then he has to go back and deal with it again. Plus, he was like a man-child, and he like lived in the woods. We don't know what he was eating or how he was surviving out there. So Jumanji has a lot of unanswered questions that I don't appreciate. But this Jumanji, I don't think you're getting the synopsis of the... Yes, I am. Alan goes to the... He's a boy and he gets sucked into Jumanji. And then years later, he comes out of the game and meets the kids. And then at the end of the movie, he goes back to the beginning of the movie. And his parents are alive, and he remembers everything that happened. He tells his parents, don't go. He remembers. And then later in the movie, we see them as adults again, and they know who the kids are. So Robin Williams has like 30 extra years of memory and life in his head. So that's kind of crazy, right? Like, it never occurred to me. I'm like, whoa. So this idea I like. Put the teenagers in the body of Kevin James, The Rock, Jack Black, and have them play the game. It's a video game now. That's to me a better premise, and I've actually heard this movie's quite good, and it's a really good family film. Sorry, yeah, I'm spoiling Jumanji, my bad. Spoilers. But the original is great in my opinion. Of course, I mean, I like the original too. I think it's okay. I think the only issue with it mainly is some of its CGI looks awful now. It's that 90s CGI. A lot of the movie still works. It's just, yeah, it's a problem with a lot of movies from the 90s when they got caught up with CGI. They overdid it. It's like, god damn it. Oh my god, this looks bad. The monkeys. Oh, it's 8 Christmas Stories on 24 hours. I should turn it on. Just do a lot. Would you guys like to hear me do a live commentary for A Christmas Story? Like we finish Box Office Addict, and then we do A Christmas Story commentary until midnight, and then we all celebrate Christmas together while I break down that movie after 4 viewings. But I've heard this is good. So a lot of you guys in the chat, and a lot of you guys, which you guys are usually dead on, a lot of you were saying you thought this was going to bomb, and I'm not sure why. But I think that might have a lot to do with maybe you guys thought Star Wars was going to take a lot of the air out of the box office. But I thought this was going to do well because Jumanji's an IP. The Rock's one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and Kevin James is huge. I just don't know why people didn't think this would do better. It's got big stars in it. That's really what it is. Yeah, just live commentary, Christmas Story into midnight. I did think about it like a 5-hour, because it's like 8 right now. And I was like, I could go, it'd be a few hours, I'd have to like take a break, but then come back and just go in and do a Christmas Story, talk about every scene, and what's so great about it. I like the idea of the kid growing up in a jungle as a kid turns you into Robin Williams. I don't dislike that idea, I just never thought about like I said, I never thought about the depth of it. I never thought about, like, the questions, the existential questions that are open in Jumanji that are never addressed. I never thought about how Alan has years beyond his, like, wisdom that he shouldn't have. And he had this whole experience and accepting his parents' death. Like, it just hit me the other day. I'm like, man, that movie has some stuff in it. That dude is screwed up. I don't think I've ever seen it or know what that is. So, no, I can't say I'm a fan. I'm sorry. But yeah, so $34 million opening weekend. That's not a huge opening weekend, but this isn't Land of the Lost. Thank God for them. Directed by Jake Kasdan. Is that the son of Lawrence Kasdan? That's amazing. Oh yeah, he did Bad Teacher and Walk Hard. Yeah, I remember Walk Hard. Yeah, I really like... Oh, Zero Effect. That's right, man. Zero Effect. Holy crap. You guys ever want to see a cool movie from back in the day? I might even put it in underrated classics, Zero Effect. That's a movie I like quite a bit. Oh my god, wow. Yeah, Jake Kasdan. I didn't know he made this. But $34 million opening weekend. But here's the thing: it opened. I think what was it? Was it Wednesday? It opened on Wednesday, Thursday. What? That was its Friday gross? What the heck? Oh, okay. Okay, it did open on Wednesday. My bad. Okay, so yeah, with the Wednesday gross, it's already made $50 million. So it probably would have done better opening weekend had they opened it just on Friday. It probably would have done like 40 something million. So here's the thing: it's a $90 million movie. That budget's low. It's already made $100 million. You have to assume the marketing was pretty decent, but still. With the holidays and the holds and how this is going to do, just with the Christmas boost and then going into next weekend, this should easily make $100 million at the box office. It's got that Nick Jonas in it too, and worldwide, I think this should do well. I think they're hoping to be $300 million plus, but even if this does like $250 million worldwide, that's not bad. This is another win for The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, and Kevin Hart. Also, this is the best opening weekend for Jack Black in a while, I think? No, actually, no, Kung Fu Panda 3, but that's animated. Live action, this is his best opening in years. Years. I mean, since, yeah. God, the last movie he had open this well that was live action, he hasn't had one. This is his best live action opening weekend, is $34 million, not animated. That's pretty impressive. So, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, did great. Pitch Perfect 3, disappointing. This is disappointing. Directed by Elizabeth Banks, the goddess that she is. This is coming off the surprise hit of Pitch Perfect 1, which cost $17 million and made $65 million domestic and $150 million worldwide. Now, this film killed on home video. The Cup song and everything. This film got huge. So by the time they went to go make a sequel, the movie had caught on so much that it opened to $69 million and made $184 million. So it made more domestically than the original did worldwide. God, I'm going to... hold on, I'm going to get some water. Hold on, I'll try to be quick about this. Getting water. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Okay, I got some water. Thank you. Ugh. Oh, it's weird Paul McCartney has that Christmas song and then John Lennon has like, so this is Christmas. And made $287 million worldwide, which was huge on a $29 million budget. So needless to say, the Pitch Perfect franchise seemed like it was huge. We're back, pitches. But now with the third film, which cost $45 million, which is definitely the biggest budget out of the three, we have a $20 million opening weekend, which is on par with the original film and not even close to the second film. I mean, that's $49 million less. That's a pretty steep fall. Thank you. That's a... Oh, she didn't direct the third one? Oh, I thought she did the third one. Who directed the third one? Hey, Kevin. I know she did the second one. But, yeah, Pitch Perfect's really popular with, like, girls and YouTube-type people and Tumblr and meme culture. It's just not... It's not my kind of thing. It's not as bad as you think, but it's not as good as people say either. But that's a pretty bad opening weekend, in my opinion, contextually, that it's this franchise that's done so well. So I'd say that probably the mix of Star Wars and Jumanji just took a lot of that out of it. Maybe a bad idea to open this movie on Christmas was probably the issue. They would have been better off to have a better opening weekend. I mean, a release date, I think. I don't think that was the best release date, honestly. I will say it's nice hearing people say Christmas again and not Happy Holidays. Oh, yeah. Why did it cost $45 million? I'm sure paying the actresses this time around, I'm sure they asked for more money. That's usually what it is. Because let's face it, they don't spend any money to actually shoot those movies. I don't think so, no. No, I don't. I would like to see that, though. But It's pretty funny. Kind of, sort of, Barley reminds me of Mean Girls. Yeah, it's kind of like Mean Girls. It's sort of like that. Do you like Arrival? I like the first half of Arrival. I don't like the second half. I think it's very unearned and kind of convoluted, and a plot twist needs to happen a lot quicker. But I think the first 45 minutes are terrific. Absolutely terrific. Like, the first 45 minutes is like Ridley Scott, and then it turns into like a bad Spielberg. But the first half hour, 40 minutes, I think is really good. It's got a great score, too. I need to go get drunk and watch Batman Returns. Merry Christmas, Pat. Merry Christmas to you, Brian. May you go on and watch that terrible Tim Burton movie, where there's only 30 people in the entire city of Gotham City. Gotham City! Does anyone remember that, what was it, R. Kelly? That R. Kelly song? Gotham City! Yeah, yeah. Do you like Bridge of Spies? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I find Bridge of Spies to be a very adequate movie, with very adequate acting, and very adequate writing. It's not that Merry Christmas is offensive, it's just anything they can use to attack Western civilization, white people, or tradition they'll cling on to. It has nothing to actually do with Merry Christmas. It's just the culture of outrage. I don't think, I mean, Coco really isn't doing that great when you think about its budget, how much it costs. Sorry. But yeah, Pitch Perfect 3. I don't think that's a great opening for this franchise. Bad weekend. Another movie that picked a bad weekend, The Greatest Showman. Hugh Jackman's directorial debut. With music written by the composer of La La Land. And I listened to the music for this movie, and man, do I think it sucks. I really did not. And I'm a big fan of musicals and Broadway. I mean, I love musical theater. I go see musicals a few times a year. I mean, I last year, you know, just this year I've seen In the Heights in Pittsburgh. I saw a Newsies production. I'm planning on going to see some stuff like next year. But yeah, I try to go see, like, you know, tours and all that stuff. I like musicals, and I'm a fan of Hugh Jackman. I hated Les Mis. It made me miserable, but I thought he was the best thing in it. And actually, honestly, gave a truly great performance that transcended that movie. But this is not a good sign. $84 million budget, $8 million opening weekend. Zac Efron, Hugh Jackman. Big budget movie. Tons of musical numbers. Yeah. I don't really see this as great. Kind of mixed reviews. And, no, I love the score to Arrival. I think Arrival has a great score. It's definitely like the score to Akira. In fact, it's inspired by it. I've heard some bad things about The Greatest Showman, too. Yeah, I have, too. Well, it was a bad idea. Like, Hugh Jackman shouldn't have directed it. You know, I know Bill Condon wrote it, and he did Gods and Monsters and Dreamgirls and Beauty and the Beast this year, but in Chicago, which Chicago's a very overrated movie. But I think he should have got a different director, and man, this was just a bad storm. This was too many things to come together to result in this. It's not that Hugh Jackman does not have box office pull, because he does. You know, Logan did really well, but like Pan and Chappie, but you know, Prisoners did good. But it's just musicals don't always hit. I know this is coming off La La Land and Beauty and the Beast were huge hits, but this is original music and original movie that doesn't have, like, you know, La La Land had a lot of hype going for it with the reviews and its premise, and this just looks like an old Hollywood musical, which, that's cool, it's a throwback, but I don't think people really want a throwback anymore. I think they want a throwback that's also kind of postmodern, while this movie just feels like kind of like what The Artist was, where it was just the throwback, and The Artist didn't do that well domestically. These kind of movies don't really appeal to the mainstream. Ferdinand, $7 million. $111 million budget. Jesus Christ. From the director of the Ice Age franchise. That's not doing well domestically. Coco, $5.2 million, 47% drop. Now, this is the thing with Coco. Coco cost $200 million to $220 million to make. And then you got to include marketing. So Coco still hasn't made its budget back domestically, and that's not counting what the theater chains keep for the tickets. So it's at 486 million worldwide. So eventually it will make break even. I think 500 million worldwide is going to make profit. But it is slowing down. It did look like it was going to make 600 million worldwide, but really, as it is right now, I think it's going to have a hard time making 200 million domestic. This was a big drop. I mean, you know, on its opening weekend, everything was looking really good, but then it had a 45% drop, and the last 2 weeks have both been 46, 47, and I just don't... It's not holding like an animated film usually does. They usually have smaller drops than this. You know, it's got great reviews. It looked like a winner, but you know, it's not a bomb. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bomb, but for how much the movie costs, that's a $200 million movie, and it's Pixar and all that. It's not doing as well as a lot of the other Disney animated films of recent years. Pixar or not, you know, it's not doing Finding Dory numbers or Zootopia. So I'm not gonna say Coco's a disappointment, but it's definitely not doing like what I think they probably were hoping. Explain this. What is it? Just some random YouTube video thing? I don't have to explain crap to you, dude. Okay. Let's talk about a huge bomb. Alexander Payne's Downsizing. Wow, Matt Damon is having a bad year. Went wide in 2,600 theaters. $68 million budget, which makes it Alexander Payne's most expensive movie, who I am a fan of. I love Citizen Ruth. I think Election's one of the best movies of the 90s, if not one of the best comedies ever. About Schmidt's a very good movie. Sideways is a masterpiece and feels literary. The Descendants is solid, and Nebraska's very good. In my opinion, he hasn't made a bad movie. Unfortunately, I've heard the second act of this movie is awful. And if you thought like the preachy stuff in Star Wars was bad or other movies, apparently this film is just dreadful. I did like the trailer. It's getting very mixed reviews, except for that one actress who keeps getting nominations, the Asian actress. But Matt Damon was in... I clicked the wrong actor. Sorry. Matt Damon was in this, and what was it called? Suburbicon, which was directed by George Clooney from a Coen Brothers script, and that opened to $2 million and made $5 million. Now, don't get me wrong, Matt Damon's had a great last few years. The Martian was his biggest film ever, and Jason Bourne did well. And The Great Wall did good worldwide. But still, this isn't a good year for him. And, yeah, this is Alexander Payne's first failure. Because even financially, Alexander Payne mostly does well. Now, Election didn't do that great, actually, back in the day. But if you go look at About Schmidt, it made $100 million on a $30 million budget. Did very good. Sideways was a surprise hit and made $109 million on a $16 million budget. And The Descendants was straight up just a hit. And cost $20 million and made $177 million. So each one of his films has done really well for the most part. Even Nebraska made its budget back. But this film is not only not going to make its budget back, it's going to lose money. This is a bomb. I mean, even with foreign box office, there's no way they're going to bounce back from this. Oh, man, Election is so good. If anyone hasn't seen Election, man, I can't recommend it enough. Matthew Broderick's best performance is Ferris Bueller, and then that movie. Election is just so good. It's so pitch black and on point. But, yeah, I've heard Downsizing is really bad. It's just crazy, too, because, man, Alexander Payne, it looks like such a good movie. I really like the trailer. I like him. I think Matt Damon's a good choice for movies like this. But, you know, not every movie can be great. He was trying to do a... It felt a little Albert Brooks. Or maybe even Woody Allen's Sleeper. Little high concept. But, yeah, this is a straight-up bomb. That's a terrible opening week. And it's weird. I thought it was going to do better. I really did. Because I saw a lot of trailers for this movie. And it just looked like one of those movies that would get people to go see it, even if the reviews weren't good. Like, it looked like a movie that, even if the critics didn't love it, it could do well at the box office. Just because of the high concept. And people like this kind of stuff. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Ant-Man. That stuff does well. And even my mom, I was talking to my mom on the phone a few days ago. I was calling her about Christmas stuff. And she said, I want to see that movie about where the people get small. A Downsizing movie. And I was like, well, man, if she wants to go see that, that means, like, people are aware of it, you know? And, nope, it's a bomb. I mean, that's a bad opening weekend. Darkest Hour from Joe Wright, starring Gary Oldman as Churchill. 4.1 million in 800 theaters. That's a 384% increase. That's a great jump. 6.9 million, 12 million worldwide. This movie's actually doing pretty good. It's doing way better than I would have thought, honestly. Way better. Father Figures, which is that film with Owen Wilson and Ed Helms. Coming off Owen Wilson's big win with Wonder, he can afford this bomb. This is another bomb. Really, this movie and Downsizing just got destroyed. Even Pitch Perfect 3 had a bad, and Greatest Showman. Really, nothing did that well outside of the Star Wars and Jumanji. Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro, 730 theaters. 7.6 million. It made 3 million this weekend. Still doing well. His best reviewed film in years. And a lock for some Oscar noms. Doing really good. Wonder had its biggest drop this weekend. Probably more to do with Christmas. 61% drop. This is a movie I reviewed this week that I actually liked quite a bit. I gave it a 7.5. I think it's a really good family film. But it's already made its money on a $20 million budget. It's made $114 million domestic, directed by Steven Chbosky. And it's made $173 million worldwide. So it is definitely a hit. The Star, the film about the Nativity, this weird movie, has made $51 million on a $20 million budget. They might break even on that. Justice League, 75% drop. So no longer is the argument, is Justice League going to make $250 million or $230 million, which was the low expectations from the opening weekend. No, this film isn't even going to make $230 million. It's going to scratch to get to like $228. So pathetically, a $300 million film, once again, starring Batman, Superman, The Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, has only made $222 million domestic and $646 million worldwide. This is Logan. Logan did better than this. That's hilarious. When we're like, oh, well, Guardians 2 did better, and Spider-Man, and, God, what was the other superhero film this year? Thor Ragnarok. But then you look at Logan, the freaking Fox X-Men franchise, and this lower budget, $226 million domestic after an $88 million opening weekend. So this film did better overall, big time, critically and financially, to Justice League. I mean, what more needs to be said? This is a joke, and it's not even funny anymore. It wasn't funny the first time I heard it, as Batman said to the Joker in The Killing Joke. This is awful. For WB, this is one of the most embarrassing moments ever for a movie. I mean, ever. This is one of those rare times when everyone is noticing how terrible this is. That this is a disaster. Speaking of the disaster once again, this movie has really bad word of mouth. People are not responding to it. Oddly enough, James Franco is building up momentum for the Best Actor race. He got the SAG nomination. He is campaigning like crazy with Tommy Wiseau. And it seems like he might be able to sneak in there in between Timothée Chalamet and Gary Oldman. So don't rule out James Franco winning an Oscar for playing Tommy Wiseau. But yeah, as far as the box office goes, $10 million film, word of mouth has been terrible since it went wide. 2 weekends in a row, big drops, $15 million. Will be out of theaters very soon. Lady Bird from Greta Gerwig, starring Saoirse Ronan. Which is getting Best Picture momentum to win Best Picture and all that. 28 mil domestic from A24 released Moonlight. This puts it 1 million ahead of Moonlight domestically, which I believe this makes it their biggest film to date is Lady Bird. So we'll see how that goes. But it is definitely dropping 52%. So are they going to release it wide again when the Oscar noms come out? Probably. But so far, all the low budget indie films really aren't killing at the box office still. Daddy's Home 2, 900,000, 99 million domestic, 167 million worldwide, $69 million budget. That doesn't include marketing, but it's still not close to the original film's total, but still 100 million domestic's not bad for a sequel, all things considered. Call Me By Your Name went wide this weekend, finally, 114 theaters. 75% increase. 850,000. That's pretty good. That's what this movie needed. It was really losing momentum there, staying in such a low amount of theaters, but then this weekend really brought it back. So that's a great performance for that movie. This film's losing traction for Best Picture and Best Director and all that. But we'll see what happens. I plan on seeing that movie very soon. There'll be a review up soon. Thor Ragnarok. 74% drop. $309 million domestic, $844 million worldwide. $180 million budget. Already talked about this film from Taika Waititi enough. It's a hit. It's a hit, baby. Murder on the Orient Express. Also at $99 million. It and Daddy's Home 2 stay close together as usual. $55 million budget. $300 million worldwide. Definitely has made a profit at this point, and a sequel is coming, so that's a big hit for Kenneth Branagh and the ensemble. Three billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is a very acclaimed film from the guy who made In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths, also getting some momentum for Best Picture and Director and Actress and all that, so look forward to this one, and it's doing okay. Here's a very intense movie. The Post opened this weekend in 9 theaters. It opened to 495,000. That averages out to 55,000 a theater. That's decent, but not great. The $50 million Spielberg film, which is a pretty modest budget, honestly, should do well. I imagine, even though Spotlight wasn't that big of a hit, I just feel like with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep and all that, this film will pick up momentum. I think it's a film that won't do that great in the limited box office. It's one of those movies that honestly could have just opened wide, I think, just because of what it is. But we'll still have to wait and see on that. I, Tonya jumped up 160% when it went to 37 theaters. Really want to see this movie with Margot Robbie and Allison Janney. I love the look of it. I like the director. I don't like his Fright Night remake, but I love Lars and the Real Girl. Kind of heard this is like a Goodfellas in its structure. But yeah, already made $1 million. It looks like it's picking up momentum. It was dropping, but this is another good sign. So, The Florida Project, which Willem Dafoe is getting most of the acclaim for, only made about $5.2 million. Now, this film didn't cost anything, but it seems to kind of went under the radar. And Faces Places, which I hear is one of the best movies of the year, is doing okay, I guess. I'm not really sure what it costs and all that. Let's see, is there anything I missed? Nope. Okay, let me check what the time is here. Alright, we're about an hour 27. Alright, you guys, if any of you have any questions, does anyone have any questions? I'll take some questions in the chat real quick if anyone, you guys have any questions about Christmas movies, or what do I think about the box office for Last Jedi? What do you think what do I think the weekends are coming up? What do I think, anything like that. I'll answer anything, because I don't have any more movies to talk about, unfortunately. But I will say, the story of the weekend, Star Wars, big drop, biggest drop for a Star Wars movie. But having said that, it's still making a lot of money. Maybe it would have made more money without the competition. The other films did not benefit from the holidays. Pitch Perfect, Greatest Showman, Downsizing, all father figures all did pretty bad, in my opinion. And that really affected it. Yeah, Florida Project had a budget of $2 million. Then you have to think about what they paid to distribute it and just market it. So it probably didn't make any money, I'm assuming. I doubt it made any profit at this point. But we'll, maybe on video. Justice League made me want a Man of Steel 2. Oh, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I don't disagree with that at all. It made me want a Superman movie that was actually about Superman, that when he acted like Superman and not like Zack Snyder's Superman. That was really refreshing at the time. But despite my title, The Last Jedi did not soar. It soared this weekend compared to everything else. But it is definitely showing some signs of fatigue, maybe of just the franchise and the hype and response and all that stuff and expectations. And all the stuff that was set up from the previous film, I think, is really hurting this film. I think that's what's really hurting it the most. Am I looking forward to a new Grinch movie? Is it animated or is it live action? If it's animated, I think that's awesome. What got you into movies? Complete change in the channel focus. I was always into movies, actually. The channel started that way. Back when I started this channel, it was called Renaissance Men, and I made it with a friend. And we were movie reviewers, and we made shorts. We did movie reviews in, like, short films. And then he left. We kind of had a breakup. He left, and I started doing my own thing, and I still kind of did movie stuff. And then I reviewed Ghostbusters one day, and that's when the patriarchy got created. And then I kind of went off the momentum of that once I started getting hits. And then I became a more political channel. But then once things started to go really sour with that, with YouTube and just in general, it just wasn't going anywhere. I transitioned back into a movie channel and decided to play more to my strengths because I thought politics got a little crazy and I was getting a little bit out of my element. It was getting just a little bit too crazy for me, where I knew a lot more about movies. And I still always did movie content. And I always wanted to do a box office show. And I always wanted to do movie content, but I thought I could never compete with those big channels like a Screen Junkies or a Collider or Red Letter Media, anyone, Ralph the Movie Maker, Chris Stuxman. You know, they just seem to have such a big following. So I just stayed out of it. You can build a bigger niche market from skeptic community stuff, but I just got sick of the skeptics in general and being part of it. And I got sick of the hypocrisy, and it was just a lot better for me to go talk about movies, which I feel like I thrive in more. And it's a lot less drama. People are still negative, but it's just a lot less drama. And I was getting a lot more, I was just getting a lot of negativity in my life. People were finding out about my channel, my real life, and threatening me in my real life. Like, it was just getting a little ridiculous. Of course, I saw that Grinch movie with Jim Carrey in the theater. But what originally got me into movies when I grew up as a kid, my parents had, like a lot of parents at the time, a lot of VHS tapes. You know, we owned hundreds of them. We had, 600 VHS tapes, and I watched all of them. I was glued to the television. Even when I was very young in school, I would sit there all day and think about movies or stories or TV. That's all I would think about. I seriously got into film around, like, 14, 15. When I saw A Clockwork Orange, and it kind of changed my perspective on things and movies, and then I started looking for directors and getting really analytical about it. I got obsessed with lists and the box office and numbers and budgets and the dates. I can tell you the year that a movie came out. I'm really good at that kind of stuff. I know the years of movie, or what movie won Best Picture that year type stuff. And that started as a teenager, and that developed into me, like, wanting to do videos and movies, and then now I've made 5 independent films that I paid for myself, or I've had some other people help with the money. When I was younger, I definitely had more people help it, and I've been doing YouTube off and on for like years now in different facets. But Please Rewind was a rebranding just out of I don't know, just necessity. I needed to feel more creative. I feel like I wasn't getting enough of a creative output doing the other stuff. I didn't feel like I was building anything, or really, I felt like I was going in circles. Where now I can kind of develop my my critiquing skills and my articulation about film and discussing it and analysis and all that stuff, and I can kind of work more on that. I'd rather be like a Rob Baker type channel than anything. I'd really like to get into serious film analysis down the road. But you got to build a following up a little bit first, then I would go into that more. But thank you for asking. Why do you think Luke gave in to fear when that goes against his only character but Jedi principles? Because Rian Johnson wanted it to be so, or Kathleen Kennedy. Pat, do you think The Last Jedi is a worthy entry in the series? No. Yes and no. Because really, when you think about it, there's more bad Star Wars movies than good ones. Because really, the prequels aren't that good. Force Awakens and this isn't that good. So there's 5 bad Star Wars movies, then the Clone Wars, and then 3 good ones. So really, I don't know. At this point, Star Wars isn't an even franchise. I think it's unworthy of its audience and the fans. I don't know if it's unworthy of Star Wars as a franchise, though. How's Christmas looking up for you in general? I'm going to spend it with my family, probably tomorrow, and hopefully I'll get to see my girlfriend. Is there too much of a left-wing slant for the post to be a hit? I think because of that slant, it'll be a hit, actually. So, I don't know. I actually think that'll help the movie. Will The Last Jedi pass Rogue One? I believe so, yes. My favorite anime film is either Spirited Away or... I know that's a cliche answer, but that's just because I think it's the best anime ever made. It's arguably the best animated film ever made, so to say best anime almost undersells how great it is and what Miyazaki's achievement was. That he made a film on the level of Wizard of Oz, the books and the movie, or Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. The fact that he made something that great, he made one of the all-time great fantasy stories. But yeah, definitely for me. I mean, my favorites are that, Nausicaa, Princess Mononoke, Vampire Hunter D, and Bloodlust. Ninja Scroll. Ninja Scroll's awesome, but I really like the original Vampire Hunter D. Wicked City's good until the third act. I like X the movie, but it's better as its original manga, even though I know a lot of people out there hate Clamp. The Castle of Cagliostro, Lupin the Third for Miyazaki, really good. Castle in the Sky, Kiki's Delivery Service. Kiki's one of my all-time favorite movies. The original Ghost in the Shell is pretty good, but I think it's a little dated and too quickly paced. Trying to think of some old classic anime I liked. Char's Counterattack, the Gundam movie's pretty good. Your Name this year. Your Name, that anime film's really good. Yeah, a lot of good anime movies, but I'm trying to think of like a little bit more deep cut ones that anime fans would know. But those are the ones that come to mind that I liked when I was young a lot. Besides Miyazaki, not counting Miyazaki, it was always like, Akira or Akira, but it was always like that. Or what's that one called? Robot Carnival. I think Katsuhiro Otomo did on that one, Robot Carnival. This is old school anime here. We're talking like late 80s. Robot Carnival, Neo Tokyo. There's another one called Memories, and the first segment is really good. It's an anthology series movie called Memories. I remember that one. Pat Laborer 2, the second Pat Laborer movie is really good. I think it's... God, I'm trying to think of... I used to watch a lot of anime. Those are the ones that come off the top of my head. Maybe I'm forgetting some that are really good. A lot of the best anime stuff's in manga form. Are you an Eagles fan or a Steelers fan? Steelers fan, man. I wear a Steelers leather jacket every day. I live an hour outside of Pittsburgh. I grew up a Steelers fan. My family raised me as such in Texas, oddly enough. Yeah, I got Steelers stuff hanging up in my room everywhere. I got like a Terry Bradshaw picture up here. I own several jerseys. So yes, big fan. Any thoughts on Netflix's new film, Bright? I haven't seen it yet, but I am going to do a review of it. So I will talk about it eventually. Kubrick inspired you. Good. He did. He changed my life. In particular, A Clockwork Orange. I was not so much... I like all those other movies, but that film really... And the book by Anthony Burgess. I went and got that, and it was really good. My indie films. My first film was called Hunter, and it was like a low budget horror film, psychological horror, which is what a lot of indie directors do, and it has terrible audio and video. I made it with school cameras that I rented from the college, and I made it with 12 friends over the course of a week. Not very good. My second movie was called The Nameless Vigilante, which was a found footage movie about two guys who go to a small town to investigate a guy who's a superhero. He's basically Kick-Ass, but it was before Kick-Ass was even a thing, really. And it's about them going there and investigate, and then they get in this whole underworld of, like, vigilantes. It was more based off that Phoenix Jones guy, and then they kind of get caught up in it, and the one character becomes, like, a sidekick. Then my third movie was called Last Call, and I made that near the end of that whole, like, film student-esque run with my friends. And it was a David Lynch parody where we were basically making fun of Blue Velvet and David Lynch movies. The idea was, because so many people try to do David Lynch and homage David Lynch, and it's so bad, so we just said, let's make fun of that. So it's a movie about a guy who wakes up at a bar in the middle of the night during Last Call, and he walks around all night running into strange characters, and they all... It's esoteric or allegorical. Like every character represents something. They don't have names. The main character's name is MC, which stands for main character. There's a drug dealer character just named the Dealer. There's another character named the Mask, and he just wears a mask and he goes around. And it's about him kind of going into an underworld, Lovecraftian cosmic hell. Like he sits in a room and someone hands him a poem and he has to read a poem that's all screwed up, but it's comedic. It was a comedy parody of David Lynch, basically. And we were very inspired by Blue Velvet and Martin Scorsese's After Hours at the time. So the movie takes place all in one night, and it actually has a pretty cool third act. We have a final chase sequence that takes place in a giant, like, kids' play place, like a ball pit and slides and all that. And it's really surreal. After that, I made a movie called Second Act, which I did play at a few festivals. That was the first one I got into some festivals around here. And that was about a guy making a movie in a small town where he owns a business that his family used to own, and he has it handed down to him. And now he's making a movie with friends. It was made in the vein of Ed Wood or 8.5 or An American Movie. Or it was just kind of like that. It was also a little bit Woody Allen-ish, which is very common. But or it was a little bit like... I was also going for a Cassavetes thing. I wanted kind of that rawness, like his film Shadows. And my recent film that I just finished shooting about 2 weeks ago, or not even that, maybe a week and a half ago, is called Tough Guys, which is about two guys who break into houses after they've been out of prison for a while. And they break into the wrong house, and then everything starts to go really bad. And the movie is kind of about masculinity and boys becoming men, and arrested development and not wanting to grow up and take responsibility. And it's also about class and people wanting things that they don't really deserve but feeling like they're owed money so they think they can take it. It's kind of got a humor about it, and it's very influenced. I was influenced with Tough Guys when I wrote the screenplay by John Steinbeck, in particular of Mice and Men. I really wanted two men on this journey. I was also influenced by Dante Alighieri's Inferno, or the Divine Comedy, which was these two guys going through kind of a labyrinth of hell. These two characters kind of go through these labyrinths of apartments and houses they break into. And I was also just influenced by a lot of 90s indie movies. And Christopher Nolan's Following was a big influence, which is very similar. Kind of had the same idea, make a low-budget movie about people breaking into houses, which gives you production value. But my goal was to make a Steinbeck-esque journey that's comedic, and also gritty, like a crime movie. But that one, we're editing that right now. That's in post-production, and we're doing the music for that right now. But that's what I've made so far, and I have some ideas for some stuff that I'm going to go try to pitch to some people later next year, or in the summer. Any thought of the current state of the Halo franchise? Yeah, I'm done with it. Pat, third time, will Last Jedi make more than Rogue One worldwide? Yes. Yes, it will. Rogue One made about $1.05 billion, and I think it will make a lot more than that. Sorry, I'm trying to answer all your questions. Yeah, Corgi's my favorite breed of dog, so Cowboy Bebop immediately gets a pass for me, also with its amazing soundtrack. It's got one of the greatest soundtracks ever. Oh yeah, Paprika's amazing. What's wrong with me? What was I thinking that I forgot about? Sato Kon? Was that his name? God, yeah, Perfect Blue. What's wrong with me? Yeah, Perfect Blue. When I said that we were making a parody of a David Lynch movie, I forgot somebody actually did make a really great David Lynch-esque movie, and it was Perfect Blue. So I regret not saying that answer earlier. I'm so sorry. Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue is definitely... all of his films, Tokyo Godfathers, Millennium Actress is amazing. But yeah, Perfect Blue is one of the best thrillers I've ever seen. And it's the closest I've ever seen to anyone doing David Lynch. Outside of David Lynch. Oh yeah, Clockwork Orange is going to be showing up on my favorite films list, and I'm not going to spoil where, but guess what? It's pretty high. It's a big influence on my life. Okay, I'm trying to answer your question, sorry. Have you heard of an anime film distributed by Netflix called Blame? No, I have not, but thank you for telling me about it. Any thoughts on the current state of the Halo franchise and your thoughts on Halo in general? I really like the Halo multiplayer in the original trilogy, and Halo Reach was actually pretty well done by Bungie. Since then, 343 has just ruined the balance of the game and the guns. There used to be a great balance and skill to the map. No, none of my movies have been distributed, but they have been played at screenings and film festivals. I've had screenings of the movie with 100 people. Not all of them, mind you. Not all of them. A few of them were just kind of... The early ones, like Hunter and Vigilante, were just more like student films, but they were films. Like we had we went and got good cameras, we got sound equipment, we got actors, we did makeup and all that. But the last 3 I've made, the Last Call actually had a couple screenings, but Second Act played at a festival in Erie. It played at a couple festivals around this area. And I had some local screenings, and I tried to get a screening at the college, which I almost had, but it kind of fell through just because we didn't keep in touch with the professor we were talking to. And I'm no longer working. I used to work with a lot of college students here, but yeah, Second Act, I think the most people we ever had at a screening was 100 people, and it got a really good response. It's really weird to sit with 100 people watching your movie. It's really weird. And the movie was about me. It was kind of about my life, and the main character Cameron was based off me and my life. My name's not Cameron, but I named the character Cameron after Ferris Bueller's Cameron, and also Cameron Crowe, which was a big influence on the movie with me. Cameron Crowe's my favorite. But Second Act, the movie made, I think it's really good. Like, I wish I could show it to you guys someday. It's really good. I'm going to try to get it on a server or something one day. That movie I made it like 3 years ago, and we had a screening of 100 people, and this was an open screening. This wasn't like I invited my friends. This was like a public screening, and like huge response. It was crazy. I mean, like all the jokes hit. It's weird when you write something and you think it's funny, and then when you watch it get executed and people respond to it the way you want them to. It's such a crazy feeling. Or people like getting moved by your romantic. And I got a lot of praise for my romantic scenes. I kind of made a romantic movie, and it kind of becomes it's not a rom-com, but it kind of is. But that movie, I don't know how people are going to feel about Tough Guys. We're still editing that, and I don't know how people are going to feel. But Second Act, I did show that, and I gave a copy of that to a lot of people too. I gave it to some of my friends who do theater and work on indie stuff, and I gave it to some other people. And honestly, I'm not kidding. I'm not like bragging because, what does it matter? But a lot of people, very positive. It was one of those things where I gave it to a lot of people, and they came back to me the next day and said, man, I actually really liked that movie. It moved me, and I was invested in it. I didn't know you could do that with so little money. I didn't know you could like make a movie like that with so, they didn't know. That movie was made almost to show off what I was capable of, because people were really saying that I was just kind of a YouTuber, and I was just kind of stuck in my teenage years trying to make videos with my friends. So I got really serious and buckled down and tried to make something that actually showed them, like, no, I can make scenes with drama and comedy and all that. But, the future's still wide open. I would love to get a film distributed or released anywhere just for you guys to see. It's not about the money either. It's just getting access for people to see it so they can watch your stuff. Because that's what it's all about. It's about getting it made and people seeing it, That's really what's awesome. Thank you for asking, though. I appreciate that question. You're my boy from now on. Filmmakers don't make excuses. They make movies. Well, that's my problem with a lot of people that say they want to be directors. They don't do anything. Like, ever. Like, they're like, oh, I want to be a director. And then you're like, okay, well, what have you done? And they're like, well, nothing. I've made some shorts and YouTube videos. And then whenever I get rich one day, or I get like $1 million to make a movie, they're going to let me make this. They just assume they're going to make Star Wars someday, or like Lord of the Rings, or a Harry Potter movie, or a Marvel film. So they don't work on becoming a better filmmaker. Because that's all you do in film school, is you learn the shots and how to edit and put things together. So every year or two, every couple of years, I get money together, I get people together, I work months on pre-production, and I make a movie, because I have to make one. Even when I don't want to do it, I have to make one. I have to make myself do it because it's what I want to do. And if you're doing it just to get rich off of it, which is cool, that's so stupid. That's such a backwards way. That's like being a writer and you don't write every day. You only write when you get paid to write. No, you write all the time because you're a writer, and you read all the time because you're a writer. You're not going to ever learn how to tell a story or make a movie or put anything together if you never go out there and practice. Look at all the directors. Quentin Tarantino was making movies when he worked at the video store. Paul Thomas Anderson. made the original version of Boogie Nights when he's teenager. You know, you have to learn how to do that stuff. You don't just know. There's one thing to read it in a book and know all the terms in a technical sense. There's another thing with applying it to the practical application of it and learning it. As a filmmaker yourself, are you too forgiving of poor quality like Red Letter Media, who seem to give a pass to too much? I sympathize. I sympathize when you make movies because I'm a filmmaker and I make low-budget stuff. I think that's what it is. I think it's low-budget filmmaking. Red Letter Media makes low-budget movies. And I make low-budget movies. And when you don't have a lot of money, there's those jokes from Ed Wood like, Bella, I have 25 scenes to shoot tonight. You know? And like, I have 5 days to make this movie. Don't get goofy on me. I can sympathize with people who make movies just because I know how hard it is to make something. I only get frustrated. I'm a little less forgiving than they are because when I make my movies, or let's say when they make their movies, it's made with no money. You have to go just shoot on location without permits. You have to run around and try to make... You have to work within your limitations. You have to make them strengths. When I see a movie that costs $200 million or something like that, and it's poorly made and poorly edited and just not cohesive, that annoys me because they had all these resources to be creative and make a good movie, and they didn't do it. And that bothers me. And they didn't really tell a good story, and they had all the capabilities to. That annoys me when you have the resources because so many people never get the resources, and they have so many good stories to tell, and then so many other people waste the money and the time and the talent and make crappy stuff. I think being a filmmaker, it makes you even more critical of other work because you can see how they did. Oh yeah, I haven't been able to enjoy movies in a certain way for years because I know every lens they're using. I know the editing trick. I know how they got the shot. It's tough to watch a movie now for me unless it's really, really good because I see past a lot of the technical issues. I think you become more sympathetic. You see it differently because here's the thing. When you make a movie, it's different from anything else. Like when I make a YouTube video and if it gets hundreds of dislikes and you guys hate it, that's going to depress me pretty bad. You know? And I'm not going to be happy with that video. If I make a movie and I know exactly what everything in that movie means because I wrote it, directed it, and I worked on it. I worked on it every day. And you have to be pragmatic about it. You have to grow it and raise it. Well, when people say they like it or dislike it, it doesn't really matter to you. Success is only measured by how you handle failure. You know, if everyone tells you what you made sucks, but you like it, is it a failure? And if a movie you make is a big hit and everyone loves it, but you hate it and you hate what you did with it, is it a success? And that's something that a lot of people forget in life. They think that if they don't have the critical acclaim or the money or the recognition, that it doesn't matter, that their stuff's invalid, that they're not a worthy artist. But that's not true at all. The truth is that you have to make up your own feelings on that stuff and your own acceptance, because ultimately what you're doing is taking abstract things from your mind and trying to bring them to life on the screen in a visual way, and it's not always going to be perfect to what your mind is. You may have a great idea in your head. I think of movie scenes all the time in my head that are so beautiful to me, and I'm not sure how to execute some of them. That's part of the challenge, is trying to execute that vision and getting around the troubles of lighting and sound and performance and pace. Just so many of those issues. And Ed Wood's amazing. I'd highly recommend Ed Wood. But what I've learned from making low budget film, it's pretty much film school. You know, I spent a little bit of time taking film classes when I was in college for my brief time in college, but really all they teach you is what you learn when you go make a movie. They sit down with you and teach you, like, here's where you set the camera up. And really, you would be better off to not go to film school, go buy film equipment, and just go make movies with your friends. Because each time you do it, you're going to get better at it. It's like anything else. It's repetition. Once you put your 10,000 hours in, you get a little bit better, and you'll learn things, and then you'll develop little tricks that you'll learn, and you'll learn how to use insert shots and cross-cutting. Gotta say, Pat, you have helped grow as a filmmaker. I didn't really start looking at Box Office Mojo until I found your channel, and it's helping me see movies in a different way. That's the thing. You have to understand movies in multiple ways, not just artistically, financially. How do you get a movie made? You have to get investors to want to put money into your movie because they think they're going to get a return. So studying the box office, which people say is not important, is actually untrue. It's almost more important than anything else. Part of your pitch, when you're pitching a movie, is pitching something that can sell and that is marketable. That's the thing. It's all about marketing the film correctly. So a lot of people have it all wrong. They think that, well, if I'm just a great filmmaker, I'll be the next Tarantino. I'll make a great movie and everyone will love it. Well, there's a lot of great movies that nobody's ever seen. You have to make a movie that somebody will be willing to release and put out there for people to go see. That's the difference. You have to make something that people go, yeah, people need to go see this. You have to have a hook. You have to have something that makes you stand out. You can't just rely on skill. There's a lot of talented, great writers, directors, artists, musicians out there that you don't know of, that you've never heard of, that are great. And there's a lot of hacks out there that are famous and make a lot of stuff. It's not because they're better or more talented. It's because they got the job done and they were willing to play ball. It's a balance of those two things. Too many people get caught up in the semantics of so much of this stuff, and they forget that it's still a business, and you're still spending... To make a movie costs a lot of money as of right now. Even though with iPhones and tech getting more involved, it's still expensive. So when people give you the money to make that kind of movie, they're taking a lot of risk. You know? So when you make an independent film like me and you put the money up yourself, you know, I've spent thousands of dollars on my stuff, buying cameras and lights and all that. You know, you don't really lose anything because I can make multiple movies with that. But when you make a movie, most of the time you rent the equipment, and, you know, you have a certain amount of time to get the movie done. You need to go shoot 6 shots that day, and you can only do 1 or 2. The lighting screws, you only have a couple hours of light to get your shots. You know, there's so many of those things in a movie that people don't know how difficult it is just to keep it together because it's chaos. A set is naturally chaotic no matter what. It's just a chaotic thing because there's too many moving pieces on a movie. And your job as a director or as just a filmmaker, storyteller in general, as a writer even constructing a film world, is to keep that chaos controlled enough that it can work for people who just generally come in watching it. I like the ideal situation for me as a filmmaker is to make art house type films, but they make like Kubrick. Yeah, well, you know, the problem is it's just like the problem is a lot of art house films now you can tell are just kind of somebody trying to be another art house director. There's a lack of a lot of original visionary-ass filmmakers right now that are bringing new things that you don't see where they're just taking from other things and remixing them, which is fine. That's the Tarantino era. Even Scorsese does that. But it's just kind of, to me, it's getting a little tedious, and I am kind of missing creative voices coming out of film. I feel like there's a lot less. I feel like TV has a lot more going on. Why isn't Andrew Kevin Walker more famous? Isn't he the guy who wrote Seven? Am I wrong? Didn't he write the screenplay to Seven, and then he worked on Fight Club and Wolfman? But then I see Blade Runner, and it doesn't make shit. How? Yeah, that's the thing. Art films don't really do that well generally either. Kubrick was a one-off. These days, the best directors are tempted to do superhero films. I would have liked to have seen Kubrick's superhero film. That would have been interesting. But my advice to anyone out there making indie films, because you're going to say to me, well, hey, man, your movies aren't distributed. You haven't made a lot of money off them. Why are you trying to give me advice? I'm like, I'm not trying to tell you how to be successful. I'm trying to tell you how to be happy. Okay? If you need to make movies and you want to make movies, the best thing for yourself is to get the money together or something and just make a movie. With your friends, with people you can hire, and just go out and do it. And just do it and get it done. And you'll have a fulfilling experience for better or worse. Even if you're not happy, you're unhappy, you'll be more fulfilled than sitting around all the time dreaming and never getting to make anything. You know, it's like being a stand-up comedian. You can think about it, but you have to go out and do a show. If you want to be a musician, you have to go play music and write songs. I mean, I even write songs. Me and my friend Sharkfoot, he comes over with his guitar, and I do kind of just spoken word and then mix some vocals in, some kind of new wave type vocals, you know, David Byrne type stuff. And we just write music together. We wrote a 9-track concept album in one day called Camp Kaufman, which is Phantom of the Opera meets Friday the 13th. But he came over that day and we wrote 9 songs. And like 3-minute songs. And it was just off like basic percussion and acoustic guitar and harmonizing and stuff like that. And You know, and I know so many friends of mine who are really great musicians. They've never written a song, you know. And we were sitting there just writing them because you just have to do it for better. You have to grind. It's the grind, you know. You have to put your 10,000 hours in. Because if you're ever going to be on that movie set that day, or if you're ever going to get that opportunity to actually get a chance to do something, you need to be ready. And you need to be able to prove yourself and say, hey, I can handle this $20 million movie. Because what happens a lot of the time is people think they're ready for that situation, and then when they get to it, it kills them and it overwhelms them. And then you end up like a Josh Trank, where you just end up doing coke on the Fantastic Four set. Okay, not everyone's meant to make $100 million movies. There's different kinds of movies and stuff. And it's best to develop your style and find yourself before you make a lot of money, in my opinion, in today's world, because you can with digital. And by the time you actually get to make a movie that does have some real money behind it, you're not learning everything for the first time, you know. And that's the real issue, is learning everything for the first time. Every time you make a movie, you have to learn how to make one again. You have to start from the beginning. It's like starting over at the very beginning and learning the process again, because it's different every time. Is grindhouse a genre of film? Yes, but it's mainly what you would call like exploitation type stuff. But yeah, it's a grindhouse theater. Like, they would show Grindhouse. It would be like a double feature. Grindhouse would be a place where they would show low-budget exploitation films, like on a bill. And that's what Grindhouse was supposed to represent. Like, you're going to the movie theater. You're going to the Grindhouse to see these trailers and these movies. That was kind of the premise. Yeah, no, Sharkfoot's great, man. He's amazing. He's amazing. He just, like, you just sit down with him and you just start playing guitar, and he'll have a song written in like nothing, and you just tell him things and he'll come up with something. It's crazy. You know, I think you are romanticizing movies. I really do, because I think television's gotten to the point where it's so cinematic. I mean, a lot of the TV shows look as good as movies now from a cinematography standpoint and editing. I mean, Game of Thrones looks as good as a movie now, at least visually. You know, we're at that point now where you do get all the good cameras and I mean, like, great DP and look how good True Detective looked, Cary Fukunaga. You know? It looks great. I'm sorry, what was your question? I didn't mean to skip your question. Can you repeat it? I'm sorry. I'm trying to give every question a decent answer because it's Christmas and I want to give you guys a little present here before we're going to wrap it up here soon, because it's 2 hours and I don't really want to go too much longer considering it's Christmas Eve. Repeat your question, though. But yeah, Sharkfoot. Sharkfoot does all of the music for my channel. The opening theme music to all of my videos is Sharkfoot, and the end theme music, any music I use in the background. Even the Exorcist video, that guitar music I use is from him. Usually he just sits down with me and comes up with something. We come up with something in a few minutes. Like, we were scoring Tough Guys before he went on a trip, and he was just sitting there with me, and we were just watching clips. It was really fun. We were kind of doing some ADR, and we were just watching the movie, and he would just score the movie live. Like, he would just, it was kind of like John Carpenter improv jazz or something, freestyle. It was just like he'd freestyle the music to whatever we would take the audio out of the scene, and we would just watch a scene, and he would kind of just come up with something. We'd kind of build off that. So that was pretty cool. That's the problem. Yeah, with TV, you get the scripts, and you get time to develop characters and world build. I would love to direct on a show like Fargo. I would love to direct on a show like The Americans or Atlanta, or, you know, so I'd much rather have directed an episode of Boardwalk Empire than most movies, you know. So much of that stuff is so much more interesting to me. Mad Men? I'd have loved to have worked on Mad. Oh my god, I'd kill to be in that writer's room. Why were there no superhero films in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s? Quite simple. It was thought to be for kids mainly, comic books. Kids bought comics, and they were still very simplistic and childish even at that time. Comic books didn't get a little bit more serious and adult until the 60s, mid-60s and 70s, and they didn't really catch on fully with the adult market until later, until like the mid to late 80s when things really changed. But at that time, comic books were just thought, and also they didn't really have the technology. It would have been really hard to make a superhero film back then. Star Wars kind of changed everything, but you know, they made Superman. But the 70s was a cynical time. It wasn't about heroes. It was about anti-heroes like Dirty Harry or Bonnie and Clyde, or Michael Corleone. It wasn't about just traditional movie heroes. So the superhero really wasn't a thing. It wasn't until the late 70s that we got Rocky and Superman and Star Wars that optimism really came back. And I really don't think we got superhero films for a while after that was just because of budgets and people thinking it wasn't a market that could really be successful. They were wrong about that. But that was the main... They did... but really, it's just technology. I think that's all it really was. They didn't have the money. It's probably why they didn't... they made a lot of space films then, though, but... Oh, my God. God, every time I do Box Office Addict, I'm all plugged up and nasally. Are there any good comedies on TV? Several. The Perfect Place, I think it's called, from the guy who did Parks and Rec. That's a really good show on right now. It's really funny. God, what's it called on? Master of None's really good. Atlanta's really good. There's some other ones I can't think of right now. Veep's really funny. I gotta respect television as a valid medium for art now. Well, thank you for discussing stuff with us. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, they're like the new westerns or the new gangster movies and all that. You know, that's why I think, in my opinion. Have you watched Happy? No, I really want to though. Yeah, The Good Place. Yeah, The Good Place I think is terrific. It's really weird because it's such a high concept premise and it's so well done with its art direction and all that. And its acting, but then like its premise gets deeper and they actually get really intelligent with the dialogue and actually explore its concepts philosophically and it's crazy. I never watched it and I just started watching it recently and I was very impressed with it. The Good Place is really good. Yeah, if you're a fan of the Parks and Rec writer, it wasn't Greg Daniels, it's the other guy. It's Greg Daniels in The Office, but it's really good. And it's just got so many plot twists. It keeps changing. I really liked Rick and Morty up until recently. I wasn't too big on season 3. Comedy isn't my favorite thing on TV right now. I'm definitely leaning more towards like dramas still. And that's just, unfortunately, naturally where I'm going. Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Any last questions? You want to get them out there? You better throw them out there quick because we're going to end this. I do not want this to go on much longer than 2 hours. This is already longer than I was expecting. I was kind of only wanting to do an hour because it's Christmas Eve, but I thought since it's Christmas Eve, why not? Let's go a little longer than usual. And since there's so many of you guys watching and you guys are all being so awesome, are you a fan of The Walking Dead show or book? I was a fan of both. I am no longer a fan of either. I was a fan of the first season of Walking Dead and the third for the most part, and I was a fan of the comic book up until like issue 100. But the comic book has gone on way, way, way too long because Robert Kirkman will never end it, and it's too indulgent, and the TV show immediately got horrible in the second season, and then was also horrible throughout most of the fourth, fifth, end of the third season, and recent times, and I don't even watch Walking Dead anymore. But I was a fan at one time, yes. I very much like the original run of The Walking Dead, the original comics, the original first few trades, and the first few stories. Yeah, I like it a lot. Do you think the current box office tracking of Last Jedi could end up being considered a failure for Disney? I mean, I'd say a disappointment, not a failure. Because a failure would mean that they didn't make their money back or profit. They're going to make profit, but it will be considered a disappointment for Disney, yes, but not a failure. Failure is a strong word. Do you want the author of Perks of Being a Wallflower to write another book? Yes, because I love Stephen Chbosky. I love it. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too, sir. Yeah, it's still making a ton of money. Yeah, I think the thing with Last Jedi is it's going to be expectations, and it's going to be more how this affects Episode 9 than this movie itself. Like I said, Pirates of the Caribbean franchise and that. You have to look how it's going to affect everything in the future. Do you guys think Last Jedi will even make 600 mil? I think it'll make about that. I don't know if it'll make much more than that. A lot of people were saying 750 million, but I don't see that now. I don't see how that's possible. I mean, maybe, but with these kind of... I mean, it would have to start holding a lot better. Because I expect it to keep dropping. I don't think it's just gonna hold, you know, like really well. But yeah, fun conversation. Thank you for asking me some of those movie questions. I don't get to talk about a lot of that stuff because I don't like to yak on about myself and my personal life too much. I find that kind of indulgent. Not that I'm not narcissistic as everyone else who's a YouTuber. But yeah, you know, guys, I couldn't have had a better Christmas Eve. You know, I really couldn't have. You know, it's been a rough week, like I said at the beginning. A lot of things haven't been going my way, a lot of bad luck. But despite all that, the holidays are, to me, typically at their best. Not about the shallow joy that you get from buying a gift for someone or the feeling you get from the atmosphere in the air. It's from the bond and the relationships that you appreciate more so at that time, and how they can grow and really be defined in new ways. A relationship, bond with family and friends. And I think it's been a rough week, but man, I couldn't have had, there's not a better group of people to talk to, bounce off of, and enjoy just the air that you guys bring and all that than the people that are in this chat tonight. And there's no better group of subscribers out there, or just watchers of anything out there than the people who tune in. In my opinion, you guys are as good as it gets. You all ask really good questions. Everyone's really funny. Everyone's really respectful to each other. And isn't that what it's all about? Just getting along well enough, so we can just, you know, get over our own ego a little bit and all that. And I just like the lack of ego here. It's been, I couldn't have had a better Christmas. It was a rough week, but it was a great night. And you guys are as enjoyable as watching a Christmas movie with your best friends and having a good time. And that's what it's like. I felt like I was hanging out with a bunch of friends tonight. So thank you for helping me get through my Christmas crisis. Thank you for going on this journey with me. And you know what? If you watch this show, you are a box office addict yourself. I'm not here to help you with your addictions. I'm here to encourage them. And where do you live and when aren't you home? Yeah, we'll work on that one. But yeah, you guys made this a good Christmas Eve, and I appreciate it. And the gift was getting to share the time with you, and that $15. But beyond that, it's just the joy of your company and getting through this together. But it is not a Merry Christmas for Disney and Star Wars and The Last Jedi. This is definitely a pretty big drop, and it shows long-term issues here if they don't course correct the current path they're on. Anyway, lots of videos coming out this week or next week once the holidays are over. Lots of ideas. Favorite films list is going to continue. Might make another video on The Last Jedi. I don't know. But anyway, that's it. Merry frickin' Christmas. Let's play out some Christmas music. And I just want to thank Bathory, who has been an awesome moderator and been helping me for weeks now, and Dr. Blood Money for being my co-hosts and sidekicks and keeping me in check and making sure the chat's running. And that's been awesome. And Sharkfoot for doing a lot of the music week by week, even though today I was using copyright-free music. And yeah, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy Kwanzaa, which is Kwanzaa and Hanukkah mixed together, which is like the perfect holiday. And just be good to each other, man. Just do it. Just do it right. And yeah, it's awesome. All right, guys. See you next time. Oh, box office tree, come back to me. Oh, box office tree, why does Transformers make so much money? Michael Bay, he kind of sucks. The studios don't give a oh, box office tree, oh, box office tree, give some of that to me.